Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to put together a fluorocarbon Ballyhoo pin rig. These are the things that we're going to need in order to put this rig together. A pin, nothing fancy, just basically a thick piece of wire. This particular one is number 10 wire. Bait spring, you guys know I like bait springs. They're easy to use, they stay with the rig. However, you can use rubber bands, or you can use copper rigging wire, which is very popular for a lot of guys that are putting together ballyhoo rigs. Any method really works fine. This is simply to secure the pin to the ballyhoo and avoid the ballyhoo from being dragged around by the hook. You want the ballyhoo to be connected using the pin, not the hook. Hook that we're using today is going to be a XX strength Mustad 7/0 3407 SSD. Very good hook, good for all around species and sizes. I've caught small blackfin, I've caught marlin with this, I've caught a lot of yellowfin tuna with this. It's just a good overall size, 7/0. 2 crimps that you're going to need to secure the rig. And today we're going to be using 80-pound Seaguar pink label fluorocarbon. This method that I'm showing you today is going to be exactly the same if you were to use monofilament leader instead of fluorocarbon. But as many of you guys know, I prefer fluorocarbon. It is a much better leader material as far as strength, toughness, and it's also harder for the fish to see, and that has been proven. Crimping tool, you can't put together a rig using that requires crimps without a crimping tool, so very important. And this is the lure we're going to use just for demo purposes. You can put whatever you want in front of your ballyhoo on this rig, be it an islander, a soft head, a billy bait, really doesn't matter. It's really a matter of personal preference. Key things though that you definitely are going to need is a pin, a hook, 2 crimps, and your leader material. Okay, again, your bait spring, this is optional. This is what I like using. You can replace it with a rubber band, or you can use copper rigging wire. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, let's talk a little bit about our leader itself. This is what I like to do, guys. It is simply my opinion. You can do whatever works for you. But if I am fishing anywhere between 60 to 300 feet of water, I like to use a 5-foot leader, meaning that I start off with 7 feet, work my way down. So I end up with at least a 5-foot leader just for convenience purposes. That's all you're going to need for catching a lot of your pelagics like your wahoo, kingfish, your dolphin. However, on this particular example, we're going to use a 15-foot leader. I like using 15-foot or longer for yellowfin tuna. It does make a difference. There are days where it's flat calm out there, the water is super clear, and you have to keep your terminal tackle, meaning your ball bearing swivel, and the end of your leader away from the lure or the bait itself. It will make a difference as far as your bite ratio, your strike ratio. So again, I like to use a long leader when I'm targeting yellowfin tuna, and those are generally 300 feet or deeper. Most of the time well over 1,000 feet of water. I like to gauge my tackle that I use based on the depth that I'm going to be fishing, because generally speaking, you're going to have different species of pelagics that are caught more commonly. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So here I got my leader material. Again, we're using 80-pound fluorocarbon. And you're gonna slide your crimp down. Here's our hook. Okay, so pay close attention. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna tie what's called a Flemish eye, okay? And all it is, loop. We're gonna wrap around once, twice, and we're gonna go back inside of the hook. So it looks like this, okay? That's a Flemish eye. We're gonna cinch this down to where it looks like this. This will actually protect your leader material from the metal of the hook. because it's wrapping itself twice while it's going through the loop. So it definitely helps prevent any break off from the wear and tear of the hook, putting pressure on it. Okay, next we're going to slide that crimp sleeve back down like you see there. Okay, now you want to keep it up and down like you see here. Okay, next we're going to get our pin and we're going to stick it right on top here. Okay, now I'm going to show you two ways to do this. There's going to be people out there that are going to argue that when you crimp this down, you're going to put that sharp edge of your wire against your fluorocarbon. Okay, there's another method that I'm going to show you to where the wire isn't touching the fluorocarbon and you're going to bend it up on both sides. This is the way that I do it 99% of the time. I've never had an issue, never had a break off. Talked to guys in the Northeast Canyons that tie the same rig. They've never had an issue. But for the sake of argument or avoiding argument, I'm going to show you another way to do it to where you don't have the wire making direct contact with the fluorocarbon. Okay, really important. Whenever you are crimping, you're going to go from the top straight up and down, okay? Not sideways. And you're also going to leave a little bit of the crimp to avoid pressing that down on the material itself. And now you're just going to crimp it. Like so. Okay? We're going to do it again. Use two hands to get it nice and tight. Okay. As you can see the pin there, it's actually, you can actually see that it's not touching the fluorocarbon. But either way, I'm going to show you a different method in a little bit. So anyways, here you have your pin, okay? And you're going to trim this excess fluorocarbon. You do not need it. All right, should look something like this. Okay. Okay. On this particular example, we're not going to do a chin weight, but if you were to do it, if you wanted to do it, all you're going to do is you're actually going to slide the weight like you see there, and you're going to bend this up, and that's going to be your pin rig. Okay? But again, we're not going to do it for this particular example, so I'm going to go ahead and slide this off. And what we're going to do is we're simply going to bend this up, okay? Like that, and that's your pin rig, okay? That's all you're going to need right there. I like to have it about 1/2 inch, so I'm going to trim a little bit of this. Should look something like that, okay? Next, we're going to slide our bait spring into place. Should look like this. All right, guys. So you remember I said that if you have a concern with the wire making contact with the fluorocarbon inside of the crimp, there is another way that you can do this to avoid it being inside. Again, I've never had an issue with it, but there is that argument out there that it can impact your leader material. And if that's the way you feel, I'm going to show you another way to do it. So instead of stopping inside of the crimp itself, what you're going to do is you're going to stick that wire and you're going to go all the way through like you see here. Okay? So you're going to have wire sticking out of both ends. You see? Only one of those is going to be used for the pen, which is going to be the one furthest from the hook. So next step is going to be to crimp it. As you can see there, holding everything in place. And you're going to go ahead and crimp it secure. And it should look something like this. You're going to have wire on both ends, okay? One of them being shorter than the other, because what we're going to do is we're going to bend that up away from your leader material, and you're going to snip it off, okay? Crimp's already been done, and then this side is going to be what we're going to use for our pin rig. Okay, so now that we have the pin crimped inside of the crimp, I'm going to go ahead and show you how you are going to slide your weight on the rig if you were doing a chinned Ballyhoo rig. Again, you can do it with or without it, but if you were, you're going to slide your weight right down the pin and also down the fluorocarbon, like you see there, okay? Cool thing about this method is you can slide it off or on if you, for whatever reason, decide not to use a chin weight. And then what you're going to do is you're going to bend it up 90 degrees, like you see there, okay? Opposite of the hook. Should look something like that, okay? Really simple. Now, this other piece, we're just going to bend it, okay? And get it out of our way. As you can see there. Again, the argument is that if you put the pin inside of the crimp down, it's going to cause pressure on your leader material and cause the break off. It's never happened to me, but I'm going to show you a way to avoid it altogether if you're one of those people that has an issue with the other way of tying it, or rigging it rather. Okay, so now we have two pins sticking straight up. You can technically leave it as is and just have that piece embed itself inside of the Ballyhoo, but for this purpose, I'm just going to snip it off. You can try bending it back and forth. Or you can cut it off with pliers. Whatever you want to do. I'm just going to snip it off. Okay, so there you got 2 pieces sticking up. What we're going to do now is we're going to snip off that excess. So we're just left with one of the pins that we're going to be using. And that's how you avoid it being crimped inside of the wire inside of the crimp against the mono. Some people argue that that can cause you problems. Again, I've never had an issue with it, but I like to show people different ways of doing things, let them decide what works best for them. And that's the other way of rigging the pin rig if you don't want to crimp the wire inside. Should it look like that? Really simple. All right, next we're going to slide our lure down. Should look something like this. Now, on the opposite end, a couple different ways to do this. All right, guys, a couple different things you could do on the other end. Number one, I'm going to show you the easiest one to do. Believe it or not, it's actually pretty strong. But you're actually going to tie a Flemish eye, which is basically a couple wraps around a loop. Should look like this. Pull it tight. Should look like that. And then you're just going to tie a couple overhand knots. There's one. There's two. Pull it together. Believe it or not, I'll get a pen, a literal ink pen, and pull it tight. I've caught several fish, never had an issue with this end, and then you're just going to trim the end. Cool thing about this is that if you want to keep your Ballyhoo rigs available to slide new lures down and to change baits out, you don't have to tie an end or crimp an end. You can just do this loop whenever you're done, so it makes it fast and easy when you're on the boat. All right, another method that I have is using a swivel. This particular swivel is a Spro power swivel, rated for 230 pounds. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie a polymer knot, which is a 100% knot. One of the best knots out there as far as strength and ease of tying. It's very easy to tie. So what you're going to do is basically put a loop inside of the barrel swivel. You're going to make a loop like this, okay? And then now you're going to take this loop and you're going to put the barrel swivel inside of it like so. And then you're going to pull it all tight. And you're going to pull both ends just to make sure that it is secure. Should look like that. That is very strong, guys. And then just trim your tag in, or any excess rather. And that's one way of securing the end of your Ballyhoo Pin Rig, okay? You can tie line directly to this, but most guys are just gonna snap it to a snap swivel. This is a barrel swivel, it's not a ball bearing swivel, so just be careful. Anything faster than 5 knots, you run the chance of it creating line twist in your line. So just be aware of that. So that's the second way to do it. Third way is going to be to just crimp it, okay? Flemish eye. Again, purpose of the Flemish eye is to protect the fluorocarbon itself, okay? So you're going to slide the crimp in here. Flemish eye, which is basically a couple wraps around itself, around the loop. Should look like that, okay? Tighten it. You got your sleeve. Should look like this, okay? Get your crimping tool. Always leave a little bit of the sleeve. You don't want to press down on the fluorocarbon. Should look like this, okay? And you're gonna press down, squeeze, and you're gonna go down again. Squeeze. Should look like that. And that's how you can secure the end.